Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name is Chris. I'm your host. I'm also the owner and operator of The Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. If you've been listening to the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you drop me a review. Today, which actually recording this afternoon, I have an opportunity here to sit down with Michelle Getz. Welcome to the show. Absolutely. I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for agreeing to come on. And what I like to do is just let my guests introduce themselves. And that way you can say as much or as little about yourself as you like. And then, so I'll give you an opportunity to do that, and then we'll jump into it.
All right. Well, I am Michelle Getz. I am a local business owner. I do brand strategy for any size business, but typically they're often startup businesses or businesses that have been around for a while but need a rebrand or a refresh with what they look like and what they appear like to their clients and how they come across. I also do pottery, and I have been doing that for quite a while. It's my creative outlet in addition to my creative job, but it's a little different. And I have a local pottery business called Temuna Pottery, and I enjoy that as well. And I am a wife and a mom of two boys who are now not so little. I have one in college and one is a senior in high school.
Yeah, I've got 4 kids. My oldest one's 20. He'll be finishing up like Tri-County Tech doing welding. He's finishing up in May. And then my oldest daughter is graduating high school in May. And then I have a junior and a 7th grader.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm in the thick of it.
Yep.
And I mean, it's good.
It's fun. It's like they keep changing. I mean, like it's just they're always like this new person, new things they're going through, new challenges they're facing, new things to discuss as parents with your kids. And I love being.
Yeah, being a parent, whether you're the mom or the dad, is great. It's not an easy job by any means, and I've talked to people about this. I find that, I love the little stages where they're just your kids are always precious, but there's something about those, first 4 years or 5 years, 6 years, and they're just, and the parenting then is a lot of hands-on and it's labor intensive, but the risks are small, but whenever they're 17, 18, 19, it's much more hands-off, and you've hoped that they have picked up what you've tried to put in them, but the risks are much bigger.
Yes. It changes a lot. It's almost more like you're a tree and you're just planted there. You're there for them. You're solid and sturdy, and they fly back and stay for a little, then fly away again, then come back and stay. It's just it's a much different dynamic. Yes.
So your oldest is out of the house?
He's in college. He's living in the dorm. So yeah.
Where at?
He's at North Greenville. So he's close to home.
Oh, it's a drive. It's a 30-minute drive or whatever.
Where we felt like that would be a better life experience for him to be on campus and get involved. So he actually doesn't come home often, but that's okay. I mean,
sure,
he's doing his thing.
When I first went to college in Texas, it was about 4.5, 5 hours away. And, you, at least in my experience, it was exciting, and it took a few weeks to set in, but then I did have a spell of that homesickness that a lot of fish, go through. Did he have that? But he's only it's not that far away.
Too much, because he could come home, so I probably didn't feel like he was really away because he's not that far.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He didn't really talk about being homesick. Maybe a little in the middle, like early mid-semester. He needed some support and came home. But for the most part, he's really been proud of him. He's really been doing his own thing, doing his own schedule, figuring it out. And it's a lot of that.
So you're parenting young adults.
Yes.
Is where you're at. I mean, it's a challenge. It's great, but it's a challenge. It's exciting to watch them grow and see where they're headed and what their futures potentially look like. But there's a lot of emotions there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not smoking a cigar today, which would be my usual. I smoked one last night with Matt Bradford at Maddie's Patties, and just decided to take a pass on cigars. And my guest does not smoke cigars, so I'd be smoking alone, which is never as fun. I mean, there's a difference between just having my own quiet time and a cigar versus smoking a cigar solo on an episode. It's just doesn't make much sense for me. But anyway, while you are not involved, do you have any like family history, like grandpa smoked a pipe or dad or anybody?
Not that I know of.
No?
Not that comes to mind. So
You're totally cut off from the world of cigars and
as
pipes.
far as the experience of it,
Right.
yes.
But
Same.
but you did mention to me that you and your husband used to do a lot of photography, and I think he still does some, right?
Not really.
No, okay. He's doing other things. But you used to do a lot of photography and did weddings and cigars and all of that. So, I mean, you're obviously familiar with cigars as far as cigars go in that vein. But you mentioned that you do enjoy like the cigar visuals that you can get with cigar smoke.
Yes.
And some of the things that you've seen, maybe, I don't know, at weddings. Like, how does that all play into your creativity?
We had a photography business for over a decade and actually won some awards, and it was popular. Same name as my design business. We just blended it into another creative avenue. So it was Getz Creative Photography. And my husband, we're both creatives. We both have similar backgrounds, but he is a very big, bold, creative thinker. And his concepts were often out of the box and not what other people were doing. So when we started it in 2000, I think it was 2004-ish, 2005. When we started it, not a lot of people were doing creative things like taking pictures of the guys smoking cigars and doing lighting with it so that the light comes through the smoke and you're just getting like a silhouette or a shadowy picture, or taking suitcases out on, railroad tracks and doing travel themes. And all of those kinds of things that we were doing weren't really happening a lot with other photographers at that point. Now, a lot of that has changed and tons of photographers do those things now. But just experimenting with lighting and smoke, it's so beautiful, and it has so much textural play that you can do when you put the lights behind it. And he would like to use lighting gels, so he could tint it pink or tint it red or tint it blue or green and just play around with that aspect of it. Most of our photography, even the wedding portion of it, was very creative. And so we would have groomsmen shots where we could do things like the cigar smoke, or in being in a gentleman's like lounge area where you have leather chairs, or taking the bride and groom. One of the ones we did, there was a carousel. So we had like the whole bridal party on a carousel, and just using what was around us, but making it unique and creative. And that same thing applied with cigars and the smoke. And if the guys were doing that, we were there shooting it.
Yeah. I'm curious to know what the reception was if your husband is a big, bold creative and doing things outside of the box in, say, 2004. Because like you said, now a lot of that is caught up. And, there's a picture of a bride in her wedding dress standing on this old rusty railroad tracks in the middle of nowhere. So whenever you started doing that kind of stuff, was it attractive to people, or people like, this is weird, what is this? And reception was cold?
No, people loved it.
Yeah.
Like, they came to us because we were creative and because we were doing weird things. The harder sell was probably their parents. So the kids, the people getting married, were definitely on board. And when we talked to them or said, hey, this is what we do, if they weren't, then they just didn't hire us. But most of the people came to us because of that. And then we would let them know we don't shoot traditionally. We don't typically do like a shot list. We do our own like creative view of the day. And we would get in a little trouble sometimes with parents because mom would be like, well, I want the picture of this, and this. And the kids would kind of be explaining, that's not really the way they work, mom. But
yeah, sure.
other than that, no, they were very receptive to it.
Yeah, I also
Really
find
liked it.
I find some of that stuff. I mean, I understand the people wanting traditional whatever, but just from my personal point of view on that stuff is it's also, Mom, it's not your wedding. This is mine, and this is how I want it, and this is how I want to remember it.
Right. And we didn't really have any bridezillas in the over 10, I guess it was over 10 years that we had the business. I can't think of one bridezilla. We did have a few mom challenges where they were like, hey, I want this or whatever, but usually we were able to handle that, or the kids handled it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But we had really great clients, and they just loved the creativity. We would do engagement sessions beforehand, which now is pretty much normal too. But we would do the engagement session before and get to know them. And then even the guy would be having fun. Like, he would be enjoying himself and just having fun getting pictures, where most guys don't typically sign up like, hey, take my picture. And then by the wedding, we knew them because we had just spent hours with them doing their engagement pictures. And then often they would get what we called creative sessions, which were after the wedding day. Because on the wedding day, you're nervous, you have a time schedule, you have all these guests. And so we recommended doing a creative session where they would get back into their wedding attire, and we would go somewhere like up on the mountains or the railroad tracks, or we took a bride in a pool one time. So just being able to have the perfect time of day for pictures, which is typically sunset, and not all weddings are around that time. So being able to have the perfect time, they're already married, so they're a little more relaxed, and it's not so much pressure. People aren't waiting on them. So we got some really cool, epic shots doing it that way, where it still pretty much looked like the wedding day because they were dressed the same. And they were able to get images that they might want to put on their wall, or a little more creative and epic than what you can sometimes accomplish on the actual wedding day.
Yeah. No, that sounds super fun, and I'm glad that the reception was warm for you guys, or maybe it was hot, however you want to say it. Yeah, but we live in this weird time now where just people's senses of humor and comedy, where people are doing like these awkward photos from like you would go to like JCPenney and get, and people are wearing like turtlenecks and blue jeans and like these awkward poses with their fiance. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's humorous to some, but I guess that's just a branch of creativity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and we tried to cater it to the brides and grooms. We would ask them questions that would help us then brainstorm creative ideas. And we did have one couple who wanted a zombie theme.
Ooh.
And so they had 2 or 3 of their friends in full zombie makeup, like behind them in the shots. And we were out in a field. So that was very interesting. That was probably the most interesting as far as unique ideas.
Zombie wedding. Yeah. Like I've never
don't know what
seen
they did for their wedding, but that was their engagement pictures.
Huh. I'm trying to remember where I was, if I was in Charleston or I don't remember, but there was, or maybe it was in California. I can't remember, but we were, this big wedding party was walking through, but yeah, everybody was in zombie attire. And I just think that's a really interesting thing. And I mean, you're into certain things at whatever age you are, but I just wonder, like when you're 60, right, and you're looking maybe nostalgically at some of your wedding photos, if you're going to regret that.
Yeah, I don't know what they did for their wedding. At least this was just their engagement pictures, but
yeah, who knows? But anyway, let's go ahead and get into Getz Creative. And just go ahead and give us the rundown. You mentioned a little bit in your introduction about what you do as a brand strategist, but kind of give us the rundown. What is Getz Creative? Where can people find you online? Social media handles. How do people get in touch with you if they're interested in the services you offer?
Okay. So I was in design, and of course we have the photography business. So I've been in that creative world for over 2 decades, and it's looked different at different stages. But where I am now is, instead of just doing the creative work for people, which I can design logos and do, brochures or digital ads or what they want, instead of doing that, I've started partnering with them and partnering with the business owner to help them really articulate who they are, how they want to show up for their client in a way that highlights what makes them unique and allows them to charge what they're worth. A lot of business owners, I have found, they kind of know what they do to be able to explain it to people, but it doesn't always sound uniquely them. And they're not able to actually articulate what makes them different, why someone should come to them as opposed to a competitor, and really their value and what they're worth. And so they end up charging less for their services, or not presenting well, or actually turning away the clients they want because their image doesn't match what they offer. And so what I do is I come in and help bridge that gap, help build confidence on who they are and what they want to do, and draw out from them the essence of what they're doing so that people can see that and can understand why they would come to them, why they would use their service, why they would shop their shop, as opposed to someone else, and really elevate their look so they can charge what they're worth. So I worked with a trainer, personal trainer, high-end personal trainer, but his materials looked like high school, like just Mod Podge, things put together. The photos weren't great. The fonts were all different. The colors weren't consistent. And it just didn't say luxury or elevated training or anything like that. It looked like skip. Just skip. So when I started working with him, it completely elevated his visuals and the materials he was handing out to clients. And he is now talking to clients who are paying him thousands of dollars, which is what he's worth and the kind of service he offers, but he wasn't visually there. So you couldn't tell it by looking at him. So I think that's probably a really good example of what I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hook, right? Like the very first part, the first thing people see if they are on, I guess, I don't know, on your website or on your Instagram page or whatever, just, is it visually appealing? Are things cohesive? Does it look, is it worth my attention, I suppose?
Yeah.
Right. So what do you have a website for?
I do not have a website for Getz Creative. I mainly do word of mouth and personal one-on-one conversations, see if we're a good fit and see if it's something that they need and something that I can supply, and kind of mesh that way. I recommend people reach out to me on my email, which is Michelle with 2 L's at Getz Creative, GetzCreative.com. That way they can contact me directly and we can set up a quick Zoom meeting. And that way I can see where they are, what their challenges are, and if it would be a good fit for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
I do have Instagram, and I post when I do classes or things where I'm teaching on branding or how to up your social media game. And but it's also blended with my mom stuff because I still want to post my family and my kids. So
you're just posting from your personal account?
Yes.
I got you.
I think it's Mom Getz Mom, or Michelle Getz Mom.
Right.
So I post some branding stuff on there. But I really have found, for me personally, and the type of it's not really personality, but the type of design that I am as a person, that one-on-one connection is a much better selling point, connection point for me than doing talks in front of people or summits or things like that.
Yeah.
So kind of have to figure out which way works best for you. And I have found that I do a lot better connecting with people that way.
Yeah. I'd be interested to kind of pick your brain a little bit about, I mean, because you and I did one of those Zoom sessions talking about the cigar box, but I'd be interested on your thoughts of, because, I mean, I do the podcast because I enjoy it.
Right.
And it's fun. I get to meet a lot of interesting people and have a good conversation. But I'm not selling a product.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not selling a product. And, of course, my target audience is everyone, more or less. But, I mean, the podcast, though, is really centered around the entrepreneurs and business professionals of the Upstate. So I'm working in that way to grow a very local podcast. And so whether you are starting a business and you've been going 6 months, or you're established and you have, 750,000 followers and your business has been operating for 7 years, doesn't matter. I'm willing to talk to both people. And what I do find is, though, even though there might be some people that are initially hesitant to come on my podcast, such as yourself,
Just myself.
I find that most people, nobody says no. Everybody wants to come on a podcast and talk about what they do. And that's essentially why Sunday Afternoon Smokes exists, because I was interested in the local business people doing what they do, because I've started a business and I wanted a way to obviously promote my business that was very, there's a low barrier to entry, right? A few microphones, some stands, audio interface, and then just the computer for recording, and then the podcast host. It's not an absurd amount of money to get in. But then for me to interview local people, make connections, and then help them advertise their own business and let the people of the Upstate know really what's available to them. How many people in the Upstate know that Getz Creative as a what's the word we're looking for here? It wasn't marketing. It was brand strategy. That even exists.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the aim of Sunday Afternoon Smokes. So I'm curious. It seems like a little bit of an outlier as to what you and I would do together to help make that, because I'm trying to connect with everybody.
Right.
I don't have a specific. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting project thought.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like when I looked at your cigar materials for your cigar business, it looked professional, it looked well done. So I think that's one of the first things I look for. Does it look well put together, something that I would want to look at, and not some of these billboards or ads or flyers you go past and you're like, what were they thinking? So I think you have a good brand presence there, and I think that's what you and I had talked about. But as far as the podcast, yeah, that would be an interesting thing to kind of delve into more and see almost how you could expand that or create maybe a network, because you are connecting all these people, but then the people you're interviewing, you already have direct connection with, and they could interact with each other too.
I mean, basically it works this way for anybody that comes on my podcast. You come on, we record an episode, I edit it, I send it goes out on, every episode comes out on Sunday, hence the name, Sunday Afternoon Smokes, right? And then I make an Instagram post, I invite them to collaborate. And so obviously their followers will see the podcast episode and get a little bit more eyeballs on the podcast. And then I send them the Spotify link and they can share it wherever. If they have a LinkedIn, if they have it on X, if they have it on Facebook or wherever. And that helps. And, like I said earlier, if I'm strictly just about growing listenership, which I'm not, like I said, I do this because I enjoy it. Obviously, interviewing a person that has 750,000 followers is going to help me, but interviewing the person who has 123, not so much. But I'm not that kind of guy where it's like, you're not worth my time for me to talk to.
Right.
So there's, I don't know, it's a weird world, and it's not, and there's a bazillion podcasts. So I'm a small fish in a big pond.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it's cool. I think finding things that you value and then something that you are excited about, those things tend to grow because your value and excitement is behind it and you care about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how it continues.
We'll see. We'll see. Whenever this comes out in a couple of weeks, the Sunday after Christmas, this will be episode 50.
Okay.
So I've got, a little bit of time put into this and episodes under my belt. And I'm hoping in the next, 6 months that I can transition from this current setup to, we'll see, a renovated guest room downstairs that will double as a studio, and then I'll incorporate video, which, video podcasts are, I think it's a big step forward in attracting viewers just in the day that we live in. So we'll see.
I like to listen to things when I, drive in the car or whatever, and I wouldn't necessarily need video, but yes, everyone's so visual.
I'm like you.
That.
Yeah. I don't watch visual podcasts. I only listen while I drive. It just makes more sense to me. But I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who I want to have on the podcast, looking at you, Trey Ingram. He's like, I only watch podcasts. I'm like, okay, he said, I'll set my phone up. Like if I'm at the sink washing dishes, doing whatever, I'll just set it up. I'll let it play. I'll wash dishes. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. I guess in order for you to listen to my podcast, I've got to get visual. So anyway, so you said, you describe your work as, and you talked a little bit about this, as transition and alignment rather than design. So I guess, what does that look like when you're sitting down with a potential client or even somebody that is a client and you're going to work with them to make that transition?
So to me, ideally, the design comes after the messaging. So when you're a designer, when you're creating something, you're creating based on something. You have to have something to create on. So it's either an idea or a person, or in this case, it's a brand. So when I'm talking about the alignment, it's at the beginning of the foundation. So I'm creating a brand foundation for them that then they can take and market. They can have virtual assistants or other designers or whatever, or me, but they can take that brand and then create marketing pieces from it. So at the very beginning, what I feel like is very foundational is the messaging. So who they are, why they're here, what they want to accomplish, who they want to attract, how they want to show up for those people, the values that they hold. And that, to me, all those pieces, which some business owners think about and some don't really think about, they just start a business and then it's like, okay, but let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the foundation. And then all of that plays into what their visuals look like. So it's not just about creating a logo or a palette or choosing fonts or creating ads that you as a business owner like. It's about creating ones that are in alignment with who you're trying to reach, how you want to show up. So you're not confusing your audience by being like pink and polka dots one day and then like deep, rich burgundy leather the next day. And the client's like, who is this? Like, what brand is this? If you look at the successful brands, they're showing up consistently again and again so that we start seeing them even when we don't know it's them. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do that with commercials or with ads that you see, like maybe in a magazine or even online, where you recognize who it is before you even see their logo, because their branding is so good, so consistent that we don't even have to see their logo anymore. And we say, oh, that's Nike, or oh, that's so-and-so. So yes, that would be ideal. And, eventually maybe you're recognized even before someone sees your logo. But the beginning of that is creating that foundation. So if I can help them pull out what's inside their head and who they know they are, but they don't really know how to get it out or what that should look like visually, that's the start of it.
How many of those people that you work with do you find they haven't answered those questions? Is it a lot?
I would say probably most of them. Some of them have thought about it, but haven't really gone too deep. Another one that I'm thinking of specifically, the process was a lot longer because they just hadn't really gone there at all. Like, they were just doing their thing. They were business owners. They were busy. They were working. They were doing their tasks. They were meeting their clients. They had jobs. They had income coming in, and they just hadn't stopped to think about that. And so when we really delved into that aspect of it, it was really cool because it was able to develop in them this confidence of, wow, yeah, this is who I am. I bring value. I do something different. And now I know how to express that in a more concrete and I think confident way. And I really like that aspect of it because it creates this confidence in the business owner that some business owners have and some don't. And they're a lot clearer on who they are, and just even describing themselves in a quick elevator pitch, it's much more succinct and impactful and meaningful as to this is what I do and this is why I do it and this is what makes me different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this statement I'm about to make, a lot of it depends on obviously what your business is and what it is you're doing, but if somebody can work with you and help get a concrete idea, not of just who they are, but of their target audience, then eventually they'll be able to make the decisions of, this person wants my services, but it's really not going to be worth my time to do it because they're not who I'm trying to reach. I mean, obviously, depending on what you're doing, and if the days are early, you say yes to everything just for just for visibility and traction and word of mouth. But you might get to that point where it's like, okay, now I know who I am. I know what my mission is. I know who my target audience is, and I'm getting some good traction. And you can start to be a little more choosy about who you want your services to go to.
Yes. And ideally, your visuals are attracting those people and not attracting the clients you don't want. So if you can take your messaging, and then as we work together on that, we create this messaging foundation, and then I take that and create the visuals from that based on who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to say, then the ideal outcome is that those visuals then are attracting those people you want and not really attracting the others because they look at it and they're like, meh, that's not me.
Yeah.
So that's the ideal outcome.
Sure. Absolutely. And part of this creative process that you go through with your clients, you said that your work is about giving people creative permission. So what does that mean?
I think a lot of times people and business owners specifically, they don't really take the time to identify these things or to really be real and honest with who they are or who they want to serve or how they want to show up. It sometimes is just based on what they think people want or what they think is going to sell, but it's not really true to who they are. So I guess creative permission can mean a lot of things, but it can, in this case, I think it can mean the aspect of being able to be authentically themselves and then use that as a way to actually attract the clients they want and the customers they want instead of having to mask that and just not really fully express. So I think people can be creative even if they aren't what we quote as artists or creatives. They have creative ideas, they have creative thoughts, but it's just more an idea of being allowed to express yourself, whether that looks like this on one hand or looks like this on the other hand. It's that idea of maybe the freedom to express.
I get the sense you work with a lot of small business service providers, it seems to me.
Yes, I have had a lot more of like coaching. I had a photographer, videographer, so a lot more, service providers. It does apply to products too, but I feel like businesses that are product focused typically have, unless they're just starting, like, okay, I have an idea, I'm going to make this and sell it. And if I catch them at that moment, then okay, we could develop all this together. But I feel like when they have a product, they're almost forced to have visuals and labels and packaging before they can even almost sell their product. So they're usually further down the road. Now, there are some that maybe have done what they've been doing for a while and want to shift directions or want to hone in on a specific audience or kind of tweak what they're doing. And so in that case, I've done several rebrands or redesign where we're taking what they have and honing it in and making it a little more specific or more updated or things like that. Start to finish branding or whatever you want to call that. I did just work with DeMarco's Italian restaurant right next to the baseball field in downtown Greenville. So that was from the ground floor. So I developed their logo, developed their menu design. So that was based on a lot of what they had already visually established for the restaurant and what it was going to look like, how upscale it was going to be, and things like that. But yes, I think overall, it's more service industry. Yeah. These are the people who are trying to define like who they are, what they are doing, how this makes them different from the 500 other coaches, for example, and how they can show up visually that way.
Yeah. See, I wish I'd have been able to talk to you a couple of years ago when I was just first starting the cigar box, just because I was that guy who said, I really like cigars a lot. I enjoy everything about them. I'm going to do something on the side with cigars, and this is what it's going to be. And then you just start doing it. And then, of course, I mean, I knew the visual in my head with my colors and my logo and what I wanted, because I knew I knew the overall look of what I was trying to capture. But as far as what my target audience was, I really had no idea. It's going to be markets and golf tournaments, and it's going to be weddings, and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. But I learned I came to answer a lot of those questions just doing the trial by fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now I think if I were to have that same conversation with you, I would have a much better answer as to exactly who is it that I want to target. And like, I know the crowd, I know certain events that would be appropriate, and work towards that. And of course, it would have taken me time to get there, because when I first started, it was 8-foot folding table under a 10 by 10 pop-up tent, and the clients that I wanted would not go for that just because it's not glamorous enough.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of branding. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but now I could swing it. But it's a hard nut to crack, man.
It is. And that's why when we're working together, I help you formulate it. So you don't have to come to me with all the answers. Like you come with, I love cigars and this is what I want to do. And then we find out those answers together. And I ask questions and we do little activities and things like that to kind of pull that out of the business owner. Because you can go on ChatGPT now and you can type in and ask questions and get them to spit out like a color scheme for you and even logos, which are limited in how you can reproduce them. But that's all available with ChatGPT. But I think the benefit of working with another person, and especially one with experience, they can guide you and lead you and like, okay, yes, they recommended maroon for this, but you're actually trying to reach younger women, let's say, for example. So maroon might not be exactly right. Let's tweak it. So there's these nuances and things that can help it look not so generic or, I guess generic's a good word, but there are resources out there that you can start with and get a lot of that information. And if that's all you have, then that's all you have and you do the best you can. And then that's just, the branding's just the beginning. Like they have to meet you. There's a whole personality involved when you work with people and clients, and you can sell yourself just because of your personality sometimes. So the brand is a foundation, but there's so many aspects.
Well, that's the biggest difference. I think what you said earlier, like, why should they hire you instead of these other 500 business coaches? Right? I mean, because if I'm just one guy in a sea of business coaches, I am the difference.
Right.
Versus Joe or Sarah or Jeff. I mean, I don't know. You can sell yourself, but your personality says a lot. And then it seems to me, if you talk to enough people, I mean, there's inevitably going to be personality meshes where it's a good fit. Do you find that entrepreneurs are making that connection in their mind, that the difference between them and competitor B and C is they are the difference?
I don't know that all of them are making that connection. And even if they know that intellectually, like, I'm a massage therapist, I'm doing this differently than another massage therapist. I'm the difference because I'm the only one in my business. It doesn't necessarily mean they know how to translate that into, okay, I'm a massage therapist that wants to bring awareness to your own body so that you can see what's happening and make changes and adjust lifestyle things and not have to be dependent on me forever, as opposed to another massage therapist who's just like, all right, get on the chair, let's do this, you have an hour, you're done. So there are those nuances that we can pull out and start to articulate so that when they say, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm a massage therapist, it can be a lot more specific. Like, I'm a therapeutic massage therapist who really wants to help you live a healthy life, free of joint pain or whatever it is.
Sure.
Whatever their specific thing is. So your personality comes into it, but you can also express that personality in the branding, either with your colors sometimes fonts you can be really expressive with, photography definitely. So you can pull out aspects of yourself and your personality where people just looking at the branding can be like, oh, that person looks like they're a lot of fun, as opposed to maybe a coach who wants to be very strong and executive looking and wants to go after those CEO men who are climbing the ladder, and that's their specific target audience. They're going to have to look pretty competent and put together. And there might be another one who's like, I want to have colored balls in my pictures and be juggling and just show them that I'm fun and playful and they can be themselves with me. And that's a totally different audience.
Yeah, you can be the massage therapist for the traveling circus. when it comes to town. You get all those people.
Different ways to express that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about branding, and obviously branding means a lot of different things. But what are you finding that your clients are not, what are they misunderstanding about branding?
I think a lot of times people think marketing and branding are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is where some clarity needs to happen.
I asked you that question when we did our Zoom thing. I'm like,
right.
What's the difference between marketing and branding? And you help break it down for me.
Yeah, I think initially that's the first biggest, like, oh, you're a marketer. No, I'm not a marketer. And there's probably lots of ways to describe it. But for me, I would say what I'm doing is creating the foundation. I've said this a lot of times about the foundation, but creating the foundation of who you are, how you show up, what you look like visually. That's the brand. That's the branding. That's where the specialty comes in, to draw that out of you and create that foundation. So that's step one, branding. So then to me, what I see as marketing is more like step two. So you take that brand, you now have a logo, you now have colors, you now have fonts, you have image examples, and you take that to create marketing. And marketing is, to me, and I'm not a marketing specialist, but marketing to me is, like where you should advertise, how often you should advertise, what kind of materials you should do. And there is some overlap with design and marketing because I worked for a marketing agency, but I was the design aspect of that, not the statistics aspect. So I would create the ads. So after the branding, you can then move into design and marketing. So designing would be creating the posts, what they look like, creating the ads, creating the mailers, creating a brochure, creating, digital business cards or the website design. All of those aspects are then used in marketing. And to me, marketing is you putting your brand out there for the world.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense now that you explain it. And I mean, hopefully somebody's listening to this podcast, maybe in the early stages of something, and it will help them understand the difference in, if maybe they need to back up a couple of steps and rethink some things and then kind of move forward. And maybe this next question, you've answered it in a smattering of ways here and there, but people, I think when it comes to our branding, we have like a checklist. Like you said, we'll have color choices, fonts, logo design. Now that I have all that, I can slap it on a website. I can put it on a business card. I can, whatever with it. But you are much more interested in identity and voice and confidence. So what is it that you do, or what questions do you ask? What exercises do you put your clients through to begin to draw that out of them?
So I have some things that I go through, and I don't want it to be difficult for them or for them.
I'm sorry. I thought, it just sounds almost like you are helping walk this person along a journey of self-discovery almost.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't think there's only one way to do it, but one of the ways I do it is by asking them questions that they can start to think about things that they probably haven't thought about or haven't thought about that way. Or to do little like
what questions would you ask?
Okay. So one that I like is, if your brand was an animal, what would it be?
Okay. That takes some time.
Yeah, and sometimes we just sit here.
Yeah.
And sometimes I give just an example.
Awkward silence.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm like, okay, is it this or is it this? And the reason I ask that is because what they choose tells me something about their brand. So let's say, for example, they choose a dog. And so I'm like, why did you choose a dog? And then they say, Well, because they're man's best friend. They're always around. They're very personable and comfortable. They're comforting. They are supportive. They're helpful. And I really feel like that's what I want to do as a coach. And so you can tie that in like, okay, these are the aspects, the characteristics that they really value and are important to them when they describe themselves. And it's just another way to identify without just being like, what is important to you? What are your values?
Yeah, that's a boring question.
Right. Or then like if your brand was a car, a vehicle, what would it be?
I see.
And then some people are like, well, it's a Jeep because it's kind of like outdoors, adventure. It's all over the place. It's rugged. It gets stuff done. And then other people are like, oh, it's a luxurious like Mercedes because I'm high end and I'm luxury and I want people to feel like comfortable when they're with me and, sit in leather chairs and just feel like they are important and, whatever. So it helps me identify by things that they're saying. I can pull out aspects of it that then help me when I create the visuals.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought exercise. And I'm sitting here listening to you and trying to think about like what my spirit animal would be for this podcast. And I can't really think. I mean, I don't know why. It's just all I can see is this platypus.
Well, if that's
platypus, but it's his platypus, and he's wearing these like circle rimmed glasses, and he's wearing a tweed jacket, and he's sitting in this like leather chair, and he's just kind of having a conversation with somebody. But I don't know what the qualities of a platypus are to draw anything from that.
Well, it also doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be accurate characteristics of a platypus. So once you say platypus, I'm going to then ask, what about the platypus or why? And so as you described it, what that said to me was intelligent, comfortable, unique, creative, not very assuming, just kind of like sitting there with you. So like maybe at ease.
Yeah.
People. So it's not just the animal, it's what they think the animal represents.
It's the vision they see, like this animal in the head, but what are they doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? I see.
I mean, a dog could be what I just said, all
Sure.
these comfortable things, but then a dog could also be a hunting dog, and they're quick and fierce, and so it depends what they're trying to emulate from that animal.
Okay. That helps. That helps a lot. Now I feel like I need to have a platypus, statue or something, along with Sunday afternoon smokes. The platypus
with a cigar.
Yeah, with a cigar. It's a strange animal, a duck bill and a beaver tail, and it's got, they're poisonous. They have the little barb on the hind feet, and they're a mammal that lives in water that lays eggs. I mean, I think God made the platypus just to confuse people, especially in the scientific community. Like, what is this? And how did it get here? And maybe sometimes we ask ourselves about our own business. Like, what is this? What have I created? It's just, a hodgepodge of whatever. Yeah. You did tell me a story though about a client who compared working with you to a clown, just continually pulling out these colored handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that all about?
Well, she's a very creative client, highly creative client. And she is a successful artist, painter, but she had another vision for a business she wanted to birth, like out of that, not completely disassociated with it, but just this bigger vision for this idea. And we just spent a lot of time talking through the idea, me asking her questions, her like thinking and answering, and then we tweak it, or I say something like what I hear her saying. She's like, yes, okay, that's it. Or, oh, okay, yes, that's how I wanted to, like, that says what I wanted it to say. And just kind of going back and forth. And at one point, she said it was like that magician where you just keep pulling those colored handkerchiefs out of their mouth, because I just kept pulling out. It was inside her, but she hadn't yet been able to articulate it, clarify it, define it, refine it. And so I was just pulling and pulling and pulling out of her mouth. But it was these beautiful things that as she would say them and I would feed stuff back to her, I would ask another question and it just kept coming out. And that's how she described it.
Yeah. I mean, it just like what I'm getting here is just you're helping people understand, you're helping to clarify for people what they want. I mean, the mind. Yeah, the mind is it's like a maelstrom in there. Thinking is hard. Solidifying and coagulating your thoughts is hard. Putting into your thoughts into words on paper and vision and to make it cohesive is hard. And so you're in there like rooting around in people's heads. Helping them put all that in order so that ultimately they can achieve their goals,
right?
Their visions, dreams, what have you.
Yeah, and she was so excited because she was able to have like her first session, and she was like, "This was just so helpful to be able to define what I'm doing and talk to these people." And
did that help her change the way she showed up?
It was really exciting. Well, she was starting it, so yes, it helped her to kind of.
So you were on the front end.
Yeah, for this part of it, like I said, she's already a successful painter, but this project that she wanted to start, this new business she wanted to start, we were at the very beginning where she was still very much like all that tangly stuff, like you were saying, in her head, where she had all these grand ideas of what it would look like and how it would help people, but it was hard to rein it in. So she was like the kite and I was holding it and kind of helping direct it, I guess. And yeah, she found it very, very helpful.
What have you seen in just your estimation, the differences between being right there at the ground level with somebody versus coming in to try and help somebody who's been around a while and kind of wants to, switch horses mid race?
One of the things is sometimes they are more attached to like the way their visuals are or how they show up. So sometimes you have to work through that a little bit and kind of work them into this is going to be better for these reasons because they're a little more attached because they have been doing it for a while. I think that's one aspect of it. But if they do want to shift and they want to change, often they have a lot of this stuff not figured out, but they have thought about it because they've been doing it for a while. So maybe they know their target audience or who usually comes to them, and they have a lot more information. So you can take it and shift it more. It's maybe more of a shift than it is initial creation, because it's like, okay, you have these pieces. They're no longer serving you. We need to shift it to be, okay, you were serving men and women because you were a coach and a trainer for all of them, but now you want to focus on men, specifically executives, specifically at this age, then you need to shift what that looks like. So there was another client I had, and she does human design. I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but
I have no idea what that is.
Very interesting. It's based on your star chart and when you were born and the aspects of you specifically. It's very specific to you. And it involves how you show up in relationships and how you show up at your job, what you like to do, how you work, like all those things. So she had been doing this for a while, but when I looked at her visuals, it was very more like cosmic and astrological looking, a lot of pinks and purples. And she wanted to serve the business community, male and female business people, and really focus on the science aspect of it. And her stuff looked much more like cosmic and
like palm reader
right.
kind of.
And that's not what she was at all. Like there's science behind it. It's not, and that's where she wanted to focus. So
yeah, because people are going to write her off as a
right. Like
quack.
that's not what I need.
Yeah.
I'm in the business world, but what she does is really help people with their business direction as far as how to better show up or what like I said, for me personally, I'm not, I don't get as much success with summits and things like that. Like I'm a lot better one-on-one. Well, that's part of my human design. So I will have a lot more success in that way. And if I try the other ways, I'm going to have a lot more frustration. So a lot of people go through their life being frustrated and they don't know why. So she's super helpful in that aspect. But what she looked like wasn't appealing to business people. So I helped her by creating a logo that was much more global because she had this vision to reach so many people, much more global. It was deeper, more grounded colors like navy blue and like a darker green and things like that spoke more to male and female and business people, not pinks and purples. So kind of reining in that cosmic aspect of it. And it helped her direct to a new audience. So I think things like that, if the client, if they're willing and open to my thoughts and my suggestions, like I can help move them from one visual to the next and be more successfully targeted.
Yeah. Do you find that people who you work with and they need to make a change, maybe they even know they need to make a change, are they like hesitant? You know, I mean, obviously, one of the real concrete evidences is like, this is what you've been doing for X amount of time. These are the results, which aren't super exciting,
right?
But sometimes, I mean, I guess it's a humanity thing. It's the fear of the unknown. I'm comfortable because I know what to expect. Versus how do you pull them along?
Yeah, I mean, that is challenging. And there was a business that I spoke to, and I think the owner himself was a little more open, but there were other people involved, and they were pretty attached to the logo and such. And so even though I showed them like proof, I can't really show them real proof because I haven't changed it, but reasons why it would be better. Like they had a lot of new business coming in, and I was like, we could really up the look of this and make it more modern, make it more simple and easy to understand, and just give it kind of a facelift. We don't have to completely change who you are, but we can upgrade it. And I was excited to do it because I passed them often and I was like, oh, this could be so great. And so I really got invested in it and selling them this vision of what they could be. And ultimately they didn't go for it because they did make some changes. I went by and saw some changes, but ultimately that base core remained the same because that's what they wanted. So that can be frustrating as a designer, but I mean, ultimately it's their business.
Sure.
So they have to be comfortable with it. They want to do it. And there is money involved, especially if they have signage.
Oh, yeah.
Have all this stuff, then they have to buy new and invest more money in that. And not everyone's willing to make that shift and invest all that. You can roll things out, a bit at a time. You don't have to do a complete overhaul every time. You could start introducing the new logo, and as you print new materials, put the new logo on it, make it a slower conversion, but it's still money. And they have to see enough value in it and what it can do for their business.
Yeah, I don't think people understand by and large. I mean, if you're going to make some changes, and like you said, if you're going to revamp the logo or redo it altogether and then eventually put it just kind of a gradual change, it's easy enough to slap it when you need to make your next run of print materials. It's not a big deal. But if you've got a brick and mortar store and you have a sign next to the road, that can be 20, 30, 50K. I mean, those things are super expensive. I think most people are just clueless about how much that stuff costs. They're insanely expensive. And so just to revamp your whole business and be like, okay, yeah, we'll just put a new sign on the street. No, that's a major expense. And I have to, and I guess this is part of the feelings that people battle with. I have to feel like in my soul that this change I'm about to make is going to pay for that. and then how I come across to my clients, and that's not just design. I mean, but that is like, is whatever I'm paying this business coach, is that going to be worth it, or this new branding or new design or new marketing, whatever. It's a battle. It's an internal battle.
Yeah, it definitely is. You have to weigh the costs to be happy. It's to be happy and successful. So you don't want to work with someone that's not really sold on it and doesn't really want to invest the money, because then they may not be happy in the end. It might not be worth it. Like, I really love it when I'm working with a client. We've been working together for weeks and we've developed the messaging, and we're at the part where I read it to them, because I like them to be able to hear it and not just see it, because I feel like sometimes when you hear things with your ears, it makes a difference. So I put it up on the screen so they can read it, but then I also read it out loud to them so they can hear it. And one of my clients I feel like she started tearing up, and she was just like, oh my word, this is exactly, it just so resonated with who she was and how she wanted to come across, but just hadn't really been able to get there before. And so that's very rewarding.
Yeah, I don't know what the percentages would be. I'm sure they're a bit fluid, but I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, you as the owner, especially if you're in a service-based business or whatever it is you're doing, whether it's coaching or training or helping people with their star alignment and human design or whatever, or me running the cigar box, like you're 90% of it. Like, okay, you got maybe ahead of yourself and you have a logo and some colors and they're kind of hokey, maybe a dorky logo, but like, if you're confident, if you're pleasant, if you have a clear like vision and can articulate what it is you're offering, and you're amiable and people are comfortable with you, they will use your services in spite of a dorky logo. But you can have the best visuals, and if you're timid and not confident and you really can't articulate what you do or why it is that you're bringing to the party is adding value,
right,
you're toast.
Right. And that's one of the things that I really like about this process. I feel like it builds the confidence. And so they're not just getting messaging and visuals. Like, I feel like it's really building their confidence too. And I like to see that.
So how did you decide that you were going to, and I don't know the timeline from when you worked in a marketing agency to the beginning of, Getz Creative as far as brand strategist, are they close? I didn't know if it was like, man, I'm just sick of working at this marketing agency. I think I can do this, so I'm going to do it. Or it was, if there's a gap in there.
I was doing freelance. I was doing my own business for design. And it really was a shift in myself. So I had gone to this conference and they really were digging into, excuse me, really were digging into what you value as a person in your life, because we do what we value. And so they're really digging into that and kind of pressing, like, what is your value? What is it that you really light up doing? If you didn't have to go to work.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Like, what would you be doing? What is it that you really value in your life? And I was like, well, being a mom, definitely. Like, if I didn't have to go to work, I just want to be a mom. Like, that's what I love. But it wasn't just that. That was like the first layer. And then as I kept thinking, it was like, well, what about being a mom is it that you love? And it could be like the nurturing or the caregiving or the physical, like, connection. And for me, I was like, I think it's the mentorship. Like, I really like when talking to them, having a conversation. So I go into my son's bedroom, we're sitting on the bed, we're talking through some challenges he's having. And when I leave that room, I'm like filled. And so to me, it was like that's what I like about being a mom. It's not like cooking the meals. It's not like being the taxi driver. It's about the mentorship of these lives. And they're growing up and they're almost out of the house. So then what does that mean for me after this? And a lot of moms go through that transition time when they were like fully moms, even though I did tons of other things. But then it's like, now they don't really need me so much. So then I thought, well, if it's mentorship that I really value and love, I can do that with my clients and share the experience, the brand knowledge, the visual, the wisdom, the training, all the stuff that I've gone through to kind of pour that back into them and show them this is how you can make your brand better. And even if I'm not doing a brand redesign or a brand design with them, it could be like, okay, here's your current logo. If you tweak this and this, it'll make it stronger. Or if you start to do this, that will make it better. And giving them knowledge, ammunition, whatever it is to make their businesses better. So that was kind of where it shifted. At first, I had the idea to just help moms. And the easiest way to do that was like moms starting businesses, because there's a lot of those. But for right now, I'm doing wider approach for just business owners. But ultimately, I would like to be in a place too where I'm doing something that's helping the young moms when they're at home, doing the same things over and over again and feeling overwhelmed and like there's no one to talk to. And I've been there. And maybe they're even doing a business or trying to manage that too and be able to mentor at that point. But the transition of mentoring on the business brand design aspect is, instead of just doing a logo or doing a design for them, bringing them through the process and making them better for it than just.
You're like the mom of brand strategy. That's what it is. The mom. You're taking all your mom wisdom that you put into your kids and then helping us like. That's MOBS, though. MOBS, mom of brand strategy. And MOB is not. It doesn't work.
A mob boss. Yeah, we do. We talk about life, too, and things they're going through, too. It's kind of all part of the package.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So when, obviously, every business that starts on ground zero. And how long has this been your thing?
Well, I was doing my design. I was not working at the marketing firm and doing design on my own in 2020. And then I started transitioning to the strategy part of really like the mentorship part. I guess that was a couple years after that. So it's fairly new, this merge of designing and mentoring. I would say, yeah, just a couple years.
Yeah.
Maybe a year or two. Like I've been doing design. I graduated with a degree in design long, long ago. So I've been doing design and creative stuff for over 2 decades. So it's just kind of culminated into this, mentoring and design merge.
Yeah.
More recently.
I interviewed a young lady on my podcast several months ago, and she does brand design, and then she decided that her own brand design company needed some refresh. And it's basically saying it's one thing for me to do it for a client, right? Because they tell me what they want. I talk to them, I ask questions, I can kind of figure it out, and I can blah, blah, and bam, there's a product. But to do it for yourself, like you get in your own headspace and you start like asking yourself the questions that you would ask a client, and then you answer it and you start second guessing yourself. And is it really? So I just, listening to what you had to say, everything you help your clients with about brand strategy and getting them into a direction that they need to go, you're basically practicing that on yourself.
Yeah.
Is that hard?
Yeah, I don't spend as much time on that, like she was saying, like I should. I think that perfectly illustrates why having someone walk through it with you is so helpful. Why doing it on your own is harder, even if you have ChatGPT. Like having that other person across from you to like, okay, does this sound right? Is this still going in the direction I wanted it to go in? Like bouncing back and forth with that is so helpful. And that is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've used ChatGPT quite a lot lately, fleshing out a lot of stuff when it comes to my podcast and my cigar business. And here's my takeaway. And I can say this because ChatGPT is not a person; it's a computer.
Right.
It's just scouring the internet and collating everything and giving you, but it's a liar. Like it really is. Like you'll tell it your idea and it'll say you're thinking about this in exactly the right way, Chris, and blah blah blah, and then it'll say but I can tighten this or make it sound better or make certain adjustments. It never tells you that's a really bad idea.
I know. I called it out on that one.
It never does.
I was like, you always say this is good. Like, are you really going to tell me if it's not?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very deceitful. So to have a real human being that has many years of experience in brand design and all that stuff, I mean, obviously you would be diplomatic, but you would, in essence, say, that's a bad idea. We shouldn't do that, and here's why. And ChatGPT is not going to give that to you.
Yeah, it is very affirming. And I feel like it should be more negative sometimes.
Well, there's a lot of studies coming out about the dangers of all this stuff because it is very affirming, and you always think that you're on the right track and that you're just, it has the tendency to make you think that you're smarter than you really are, or that you're more intuitive than you really are, or that you know what you're talking about or what you're doing when you actually don't. I mean, it's a good tool. I use it to help. Just before you showed up, I wasn't sure exactly what all needed to go to make the dressing for my coleslaw, and that was a winner. It's very helpful for that, but I'm not sure all the directions that it's given me for what I need for certain things around the cigar box and Sunday afternoon smokes is actually what it really needs to be.
Well, like what I recommend with it is after you've done your brand foundation. So let's say I've worked with you, we've developed your brand foundation, I've designed your logo, you have a new logo, you're good to go with how your website should look, how your downloads should look when you hand that out to people, all of those pieces, how your posts should look on social media. You're ready for all that. And you have this brand guideline PDF that I give you. My recommendation is to take that, feed it into ChatGPT so that it can know you and your brand, and then ask questions from that. Like, reference this PDF, this brand guideline, and write 30 posts for me for the next month. Or tell me how this bio should look for such and such based on this. So that way, you're feeding it yourself and your brand and all the work you've done, and then asking it to spit out to you a way to reword that for So I like to use it I like to encourage people to use it that way, because then it's informed with you.
Yes.
Informed with your brand.
Yeah, I think it knows me pretty well by now. I've talked to it about a lot of things, and I've gotten to where I use it to help me even for my interviews, because my guests, as you know, will fill out the guest preview form, and I used to spend a couple of hours just writing the notes all myself, which is fine. But since then, it's become a little more challenging, and so I'll say I'm interviewing such and such. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's all the information they gave me. It's a long-form podcast, roughly 2 hours. Give me, what are we going to talk about? Here it is. And then I'll go through and read it, of course. And I'm like, no, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. Let's, and then once the show's done, I will ask it, okay, write me an appropriate show notes that I can slap into Spotify, make me the wording for my Instagram post, give me the right hashtags, maybe even look up some local accounts for me that I should tag, use it for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it can be like a workhorse.
Yeah. Yeah, it pretty much is. Yeah, but it's not. It's a deceiver. So, yeah. So, well, anyway, at this point, let you know that this episode of Sunday Afternoon Smokes is brought to you by the Cigar Box, my mobile cigar experience built to elevate weddings, corporate gatherings, and private celebrations across South Carolina. Whether you're hosting a holiday party, ringing in the new year, or planning something unforgettable next spring, the Cigar Box brings a hand curated selection of premium cigars, expert cutting and lighting, and a warm, elegant presence that guests always remember. It's a bespoke rolling humidor designed to slow the night down and create a moment people talk about long after the event ends. If you're planning an office party, a wedding, or any event that deserves a touch of class, visit us online at mobileCigarBox.com or message me directly on Instagram at mobileCigarBox, and I will be in touch with you as soon as possible. And that was all written by ChatGPT. There you go. That's
perfect example. How it works.
That's exactly right. It's an assistant. It helps me do the things that, and by the way, that's not to say, write your own if you want to, and then say, hey, here's something I wrote, clean it up.
Right.
And
it's good at grammar. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on from, Getz creative brand strategy to pottery. So, you mentioned in your intro, what was the name of it? Temuna? Temuna. Okay. Explain. That's not, one of the things I'm always interested in is why people name their businesses what they are. Getz Creative is obvious. It's a play off of your last name. Temuna, help me out.
Okay. It is actually a Hebrew word. I was, as part of designing and naming things, which I've been in multiple meetings where we're naming products or naming a new thing in my career. And part of the processes we do is to look at foreign languages and how to say like that word or what they do, like crystal or whatever, in different languages. So a lot of times naming brands and products have to do with not American, but have another language in them. So I'm already familiar with that process, and I was trying to come up with a name for my pottery business. And I was doing some work into Hebrew at that point, like Hebrew letters and things like that. And so I looked up, I forget what I even looked up. Somehow I found Temuna, and I liked the way it sounded. And it actually means likeness or form, which is what you're doing with pottery. You're forming things. You're making likenesses of other things. Like I do sculptures, so then it looks like a cow or whatever. So it was the perfect meaning for it. And I really liked the sound of it. So that's how it came about.
I need a pottery platypus. Wire rim glasses, tweed jacket, maybe a little bow tie, cigar, and he's just, relaxed. He's a conversational guy, gives off a little bit of he's approachable, but he's educated.
Right.
To some extent.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, so that's how that came about. I had done pottery in college. I had done pottery after college. Then I took a long break, having babies and our business and just being really busy. And then in 2021, I started doing it again. And I'm just typically proficient and efficient, like prolific and efficient. Like I just do a lot. And so I produced a lot of pottery, and I was like, I can't keep all this. This isn't going to work. So if I'm going to make all this stuff, I'm going to have to sell it too. So I just started going to like local markets, and it just sort of went from there. I have done Holly Jolly, which is the big Anderson Christmas show, for 3 years. I just did Artist Next Door this past fall, which was really fun and more of the direction I want to get into. When I started in 2021, I was doing a lot more functional pieces like mugs and bowls and berry bowls and spoon rests and things like that, which are fine, and I like that.
Yeah, but there's a bazillion of them.
There's tons of people doing those. And what I really like doing is more creative pieces. I am not a production artist in the essence of producing the same thing over and over. I'm like, kill me now. Like that just, ugh. But I am a production artist in the fact that I produce a lot. So I was doing mushrooms and things, gnomes, and just fun little playful things at fairy houses. And I actually got into At Home magazine. They featured me as the potter in the fairy houses. And I do nativity sets. They're all like hand carved. Some of them look like wood. Some of them have patterns on them. I do gnome nativity sets, which my son named, and I think is perfect.
That is perfect. That's spot on.
You don't see many of those. So I like to create things that people are like, oh, I've not seen people doing these. And that's really much more fun for me.
Yeah. And I'll say this for somebody out there. Maybe I've said it on the podcast before. Maybe I haven't. I don't want to seem unkind because that's not who I am. But just in the world of business, and if you want to start a small business or side hustle, I mean, if it's your passion, go for it. But along the lines of what you said, doing the functional pottery, whether it's vases or berry bowls or plates or whatever, like I've done enough markets with my cigar trailer. Look, if your passion is homemade soap or homemade jewelry, that's fine. Go for it. Just be aware that there's like 6,000 other people making homemade soap and homemade jewelry, and there's going to be 10 of you at the market, and it's going to be it's going to be hard.
You're going to have to sell with your personality.
That's very true.
You're going to
I'm not
attracting people in.
I'm not trying to discourage somebody from making homemade soap as a business if that's what they want to do, but I want to be the guy that speaks a little bit of reality.
It's very saturated market.
Into you. Yeah.
Candles, soap, it is a saturated market. So you got to do something different or differentiate yourself in some way. But that's why I really kind of make the pottery for myself.
Right.
Like things that I like, and then people end up liking it, which is awesome. But that's, I think, what an artist does. Like you want to create what inspires you and what comes out of you, not necessarily what someone else wants, because that's not going to be as sustaining, and it's not going to be something that you enjoy and love if you're always creating for someone else. Like, okay, they want this. Not that you can't do projects like that, but I think what makes an artist is they're giving their expression of something, whether it's painting or whether it's ceramic or whether it's watercolor. It's their expression out to the world. And then invariably people like it because they connect with that connection with that inspiration or with that expression. So I like trying new things and then seeing how they would go. There's a project I did this year, which was mushroom based.
You mean the you mean the pottery was mushrooms? Yeah. So okay, I mean like we're tripping on mushrooms and making weird pottery, which yeah.
Yes, pottery-based mushrooms. So I sell a lot of the little, like just typical-looking mushrooms with the bell top. And I have tried a few ones that, you look up online and find unique mushrooms that have lacy tops and weird things. So I have done some of that before. But my husband is into board games, greatly into board games. And he got this game called Mycelium. And it's all about the mushroom and the network, and has beautiful illustrations of these weird mushrooms, these beautiful cards and characteristics of these mushrooms.
So they did good on the branding.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game, which he's an artist too, so he picks games that are beautiful on purpose. And I just was like, oh, I wonder if I created mushrooms that looked like these, like weird ones, like if that would be appealing to people. And I could do a watercolor with it because I can paint it and then make that with the sculpted mushroom. And then this would be cool. And so I picked out 16 of them and made 16 one-off mushroom sculptures with original watercolor prints and these wood blocks that they sat on, which were so accidentally cool. I was looking for something to put them on, and I found this company out west called Exotic Woods, and they have these blocks that I guess woodworkers use to make things out of them. They're not finished. And so I just ordered some that I thought looked really cool, and they were perfect. And they were just unfinished, like 2x3 cube blocks of wood. And they were perfect. So I took that. The first time I showed that was at the Artist Next Door. And what I like about the Artist Next Door is it's at an artist's house. She has a studio there and a workshop, and she invites other artists there. And for 2 days, people can come and shop art, but they're looking for art. It's not a market where there's soap and candles.
Yeah.
It's art. And so they're willing to pay higher prices for the stuff that you spent all this time on. And that was really good. And that's really where I want to move. I am an artist. I've been an artist. I've been trained as an artist. I've been taking art lessons since I was, 8 or something, like elementary school, I think, at least junior high. So I want to do things that are more artistic. So I have an idea using this new technique that I've been trying where it's actually pulling the clay with a dry sponge and it creates these rough organic edges. And I call them botanical sculptures, but they kind of look like things under the ocean too. And people have said that to me. And you can use them for all different things. I used them on mushrooms. I used them on angels and gave them the wings that texture. I did one nativity set with 2 mushrooms, Mary, Joseph, and the baby, all in that style. Custom one-off. But I want to use that technique. And I have this vision in my mind of doing something with driftwood and pieces of ceramic in that technique and creating an art piece that would hang on the wall or that would sit on a table out of it. So I need to do some sketching to actually figure out what this is going to look like. But I'm inspired by it, and I think that's going to be my project for this year.
All right, look, I don't know anything about pottery. I'm just going to put it out there. I really don't. So, what are we talking about here? Do you use, I don't know, not all pottery is done on the spinning wheel? That's not what you're doing.
So there's some functional pottery. A lot of the functional pottery will be done on a wheel because you'll be throwing a bowl. You can hand build bowls, but throwing a plate, throwing a bowl, throwing a mug, and then attaching a handle. So a lot of that happens on the wheel. I actually don't spend very much time on the wheel anymore. Almost all of my stuff is hand built. So that means you are flattening it by hand, you're forming it by hand, you're maybe rolling it out and then moving it by hand. So when I talk about that sponge technique, I'm taking, let's say, a ball of clay about this, maybe 2 inches. I'm going to flatten it out pretty much. So it's maybe about a quarter inch to half an inch thick patty kind of idea. Lay it on a table, and then I'm going to use the dry sponge to pull away from center. And it kind of rips some of the clay off and creates that. So that's step 1. So then you let it sit for a little bit to kind of get a little more structure or form, because if you work with it at that stage, it's going to be floppy and it's not going to really hold its form. So let it set up a little bit. And then I can attach it to another piece or start creating layers, which is what I did with the botanical sculptures. And then once that's done and everything's attached and you've kind of smoothed the connection pieces and everything like that, then you let it dry completely. That's its most fragile stage. It's like chalk. So one time I was taking a bunch of plant mushrooms, which are mushrooms with long stems that you can stick in plants to decorate them. to get fired at the studio, and I hit the brakes too fast. The box slid off. I had like 20 of them. Slid off the seat, and it was just like chalk pieces on the ground. So that's their most fragile stage, is to be so careful with them then. You get them fired. You fire them once in the kiln, and the kiln is super, super high temperature. Fire them once. So at that stage, they're more strong. Like if you just like tap it, it's not going to like fall into pieces. Then you color them. So you figure out how you're going to color them, whether you're going to dip them in glaze, whether you're going to hand paint them, whatever you're going to do to color them. And then you fire them again in the kiln. And that basically sets the color. It makes the glaze shiny. It pulls out the tones in it, the different textures like you have over there, the different colors. It sets it. And then if it's covered in glaze, it's food safe glaze. You can also use it for food. Then after all of that, you can sell it if it made it.
If it survived the kiln. And
if it survived getting it there, firing it twice, it didn't crack at all. I've had a cow who like lost an ear and then it had a big crack across his forehead. So yeah, after all that, then you can sell it.
No, I mean, that's, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about that. Like all I know about pottery is just seeing people spinning and making a bowl or a plate or whatever. And so that you're, because I was wondering, like, how do you make a misshapen mushroom on a wheel?
No,
you can't really
you're
do
just
that.
hand sculpting, putting clay together, using different tools to make holes or smooth it out or whatever. It's just all handwork.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your handle for your pottery, but do you like you said, you make what you want to make, but so do you take orders though, like
I do take
custom
stuff? I do some. I'm picky about it because it can very easily get out of hand, especially if the client does not understand how pottery works, and that you may see a bowl that you like and like that color, and I may use that exact same glaze and not get the same results. So I want to make sure they know, like, this is a flexible process. It's probably not going to look exactly like what you see. Depending on where it's sitting in the kiln, it can be different.
Really?
Yes, because different temperature in the kiln, depending on what's next to it. Like, there's so many variables. So I really try to make sure that people understand that if they're going to get a custom piece from me. And then the time it takes to do it, because it's not like I'm going to have it for you tomorrow. Like, I have to make it, then it has to dry completely, then it has to be fired, then it has to be glazed, and it has to be fired again. So like, this isn't happening tomorrow. So if you're good with the time frame and you're good with the flexibility of how pottery works, then it's much.
Okay, if I said to you, hey, Michelle, I want you to make my little platypus guy, what kind of time frame are we talking on this project?
Well, right now I have some projects, so I wouldn't be starting it probably till the beginning of the year. And then once I start it, probably a couple weeks, just depending on how busy the kiln schedule is and what's in there. So not, like,
late
terrible.
January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking like months and years.
I was just curious.
Yeah, it's like I have an order for a nativity set right now, and that's the kind that I have to carve to make it look like wood. So I'll probably try to work on that this week. Or this weekend, so then it would be ready to go in the kiln next week, and give that about a week, depending on how much is in front of me. Shelves.
So this is the kiln at the studio. I'm presuming this is like a kiln that a bunch of different artists share, and so you've got to have scheduled time for your stuff to be in the kiln and all that.
You put it in line.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'll maybe have it done by the end of the month. Maybe.
Yeah. How long? Well, and I guess it probably depends on the size of the piece and what you're doing. I was going to ask, like, how long does it spend in the kiln?
Not too long. So if the kiln's loaded on Friday, it'll be out by Sunday. So it has to, the kiln's loaded, it heats up, gets up to the temperature it needs to be for the firing, and then it has to cool down really slowly. If you open it before it's cool enough, like cracks, like the stuff in there, just like not a good plan. So not too long for the actual firing. And if it's first in line and it gets in, then, a couple days. But
Well, that makes, I mean, when you say not too long, but you say a couple of days, but it's all relative because you're in the world of pottery. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to think, okay, that is a long time since in the kiln, but if I understand the process, okay.
Yeah, so they have to, you have to get it up to heat. Can't do that too fast or it'll crack things. You have to bring it down. You can't do that too fast. It'll crack things. It's very fragile. So probably Friday to Sunday, it's in the kiln, and then you glaze it and then get it back in the kiln. Same thing, several days there. And then if it's a bigger piece, sometimes it takes longer to get in the kiln because it's not as easy to fit in. My nativities, because they are individual and they're only, like this round, they're only, this wide, it can fit into little nooks and crannies in the kiln. So they tend to get in faster. But when I was doing like those big botanical things, they're a little scarier and super fragile. So, yeah.
No. So what is it about, like, so you started, would you say, started doing pottery when you were in college? Did you say 19? 2019 or 19 years old? No, if it's college, 19. You didn't say. Well,
I said I started again in 2021.
We started again in 2021. That's fair. We're not going to get into that. But pottery, of course, I mean, it's doubling for you. It seems like, you've turned it into a business because if I'm going to make this much stuff, I obviously have to sell. I can't keep all this stuff. But is pottery, is it like Michelle's quiet time and escape from just stress and life but it's also a business, so it adds.
Yeah, but it's not my main business, so it doesn't have as much pressure. Like if I don't go to a show, then I don't go to a show. Like it's not that huge. Like basically, I have decided like I'm done for the season. Like I'm not doing any more markets. Last Saturday was my last one. You can contact me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. If you still want something, I still have stuff. You can contact me. We can work out how to get it to you. But like I'm done for markets. So yes, it is relaxing and a creative output. I don't typically like to just do it by myself. I like to do it at home where my family's still like in and out and around because I still feel like I'm part of that. Because again, it comes back to my mom. Like that's my big value. So I don't want to be like by myself out in a shed. Not that kind of quiet and calm, but like just sitting at home making these things while things are happening around me. That's cool for me. And I like the creativity of it. It doesn't. If I'm not making something new and something like I've done before, I have some familiarity with, I don't have to like be super concentrated on it. I can just be working on it. And the tactile nature of it is different than my branding job where I'm still being creative and designing, but it's that whole tactile feel. I'm just
that was literally going to be my next question. Like, what are you getting from pottery that you're not getting from brand strategy, because they're both creative,
right?
But you actually get to get your hands into something, like physically,
right? It's tactile. Your hands are actually playing with things, like just moving the clay. And it's just relaxing. Actually, the wheel, if you're good at it, not when you're first learning, because it does take practice. But if you're good at the wheels, it's actually relaxing too. Like just like the clay moving and you squeezing it and making it do what you want it to do somewhat. The clay kind of does what it wants to, but it can be relaxing and therapeutic as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. And it's something I'm doing by myself. So it is alone time, even though like I'm not sequestered.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. That's all really cool. Like I said, pottery's not, I mean, I remember back in middle school, I was in art class, and I did make this turtle for my mom.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember making it, and then we fired it off in the kiln, and then we glazed it and fired it again, and I gave it to her as a gift, and it sat on, I don't remember where it was sitting in the house. And then I remember years later, as I had two brothers. Mm-hmm. I had no sisters, two brothers, and it's not uncommon for brothers to fight and to rumble and tussle. And it got bumped into and knocked off and broken on the floor, and it was not a good day. Mom was not happy. For a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
The fighting.
It's good. It's just pottery. It's not like your child is broken, but it is like you spend time on it. So it's definitely, and they can have connection. And that's another thing I love when people come to the markets and they find something. They're like, oh, I love this. It's going to be like so perfect in this place and there's such a joy from it. And so I love seeing that connection with the clients too of the pottery. And they're like, oh, this is beautiful. I have a place for it on my mantle, or, oh, I'm going to give this to my sister. She's going to love this.
Well, there's just something very different about a product that is handmade by a person versus something that's stamped out by a machine. I mean, there just is. Even though whatever that machine is stamping out, somebody designed and put into a program, and the engineer did all the timing on the machine to make everything work right, there's still a human element. But I don't know, there's something about a person sitting down, whether it's a piece of pottery or a guy and his whittling knife.
Yes.
And he is just carving out what's in his head. I mean, my wife has a piece from her grandfather. She loves her grandfather very much, who is he passed away years and years ago, but it's like one of her prized possessions. He carved a boot, and it's just in a frame in a box. And I don't know, there's just something about the human touch that is always going to be wholly separate and better than just machine stuff.
And it's unique. Like, nothing that I create is ever exactly the same.
Right.
Like, even if I'm trying to make it exactly the same, it's not. So there's that unique factor. Of course, handmade stuff is typically more expensive, and I think that's why people buy the other stuff. But
everything has a time and place. I mean, I'm not gonna have. Of course, I'm probably your typical husband who complains that we have too many coffee mugs. Like, we need like 4.
Right.
I don't know why there's 22 mugs so cool in our cupboard. But yeah, like, I understand there's utility. I can go to the store and I can get a coffee mug for $4 and whatever, but then there's always a place for something a little special. And my son, he made for my mom, his grandmother, he came home from art class one day with a huge one of those like ugly face mugs. Have you ever made any of those?
Oh.
It's hideous. Of course, it's called ugly face mug for a purpose, but...
It sounds fun, though.
You're familiar with him, right?
I don't know if I've seen one. I mean, I'm guessing it has a face on it and it's a mug.
Correct. But it's not as though it's a nice, shapely mug that has a face on it. It's like, it is a face that's a mug. Like, there's a whole world. You're going to have to Google ugly face mug. I used to have a friend who collected them, and he had some really special ones I think were probably valued and whatever. But I'm like, I've seen them and they're bizarre. But yeah, you need to Google it.
It's a real art.
It's an actual thing. Okay. So I think we're about wrapped up here, unless there's something that I didn't touch on that you want to get to.
No. I do have Instagram and Facebook for my pottery. So if they're interested in that, it is TEMUNAH, Temuna Pottery .com, and also Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome.
They want to follow some strange creative pottery stuff.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not already, I will be following Temuna Pottery on my podcast, because I always follow the people that come sit down with me. And so I look forward to seeing some of your creations. And give me, off the top of your head, if you have them, just the names. Now that you've been on the show, you know what it's about. So the names of a couple of people you think I should ask to come be a guest. Immediately, I thought of the lady you said who runs the artist lady who has her deal a couple of days a week and people come. What was it? Wasn't like artist.
Oh, yeah, Cheryl. Yeah, she would be great. She does glass work, some metal, because she's doing stainless steel. So she would be great. Yes, I can definitely give you her information. And let's see. Cozy Panda. They're friends of mine. He creates cutting boards and beautiful cutting boards. We have a very large one, like this big, on our table, on our counter, and it just stays there. My husband uses it, I think, every day. And he makes sure it has the beeswax on it to make sure it stays conditioned. It's like his baby. They make beautiful cutting boards, and they are local as well. Yeah, those are the people I think of off the top of my head.
Okay, sweet.
Give the information.
Yeah, please do. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I had a super fun time. I hope it was not. I hope you felt comfortable.
Yes.
I know you're a little bit
next to
anxious.
Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an amiable guy.
Yeah.
He's getting along well. Hey, thanks for listening to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, and don't forget to give Michelle Getz, what is it, Mom Michelle Getz, or Michelle Getz Mom?
Mom is on
Instagram, and Temuna.
Michelle Kuntz Getz, 2 Z's in there for my Facebook, but yeah. And
Temuna Pottery. So give those a look, give them a follow actually. And if you're listening and you are getting ready to launch a business, or maybe you feel like you need to kind of turn a page, reach out to Michelle. I know she'll be helpful to you. I hope that if you listen to this podcast, you already got some good ideas.
Yes.
You should have. But thanks for listening to the Sunday Afternoon Smokes. I appreciate it. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it on your socials, and share it with the world, because Sunday Afternoon Smokes is really sweet. We'll see you next time.